What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 167 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me support the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. New subscribers, be sure to join the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. Today we've got about a 20-minute episode. We're going to be continuing our work on the ANBO Jyutsu ring, seen in Star Trek The Next Generation, the Icarus Factor. And we're going to be wrapping up this build today. It's only a 3-part episode. So let's kick back, relax, and jump right into it. We pretty much have the hard stuff done. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be adding in our detail. And just doing a couple of things that we can do to try to bring out some of the detailing in the room if we can. One of the things I notice immediately now about the room is that I'd find it hard to believe that two people would just be in there by themselves. I feel like there should be some maybe type of spectating area so that, you know, crew that want to be involved, you know, can come and watch a fight if they want to. And that ties more into the recreational aspects of the Enterprise D. So that's kind of the main thing that we're going to do to try to tie this whole room together, is that in this backhand corner here, we're going to try to add like a second floor observation deck kind of deal, where the crew can come in here and just, you know, relax and watch people duke it out in the ring. Yeah, just that back corner here, I think that's what we're going to want to utilize. Because remember, less is more. You don't want to overdo it and have, you know, a gaping balcony going all the way around the room. Especially when you consider the fact of canon, if you're trying to work within that. There's none of that in this picture here. But what we can get away with it is this entire back area here. Who's to say that there wasn't a spectating area? You know what I mean? So when you start to think like that, you can get away with doing little things like this here and there. Because ultimately what you're going to be faced with is that you're going to be in this scenario with other sections of the ship where you'll have a screenshot to work with, but you'll only have one point of view to go off of. So everything going around here, you have to fill in the gaps. And there's no wrong answer. There's no wrong thing to do. You can do whatever it is that you want. That's the beauty of Minecraft. That's the beauty of building, is, you know, use that creativity. Think about what you want to do and what looks the best to you. And there's no wrong answer with it. Whatever you come up with, that's your ship. And nobody can bat an eye at it. That's honestly how I get around it, because every once in a while, it doesn't happen all the time. It's very rare these days, but every once in a while I'll get somebody that they'll message me and they'll be like, that's outside of canon. And I'll ask them, like, okay, show me a screenshot of this room in this specific area, and they can't do it. You know, and it comes down to, it's like, I get where you're coming from. Maybe you just didn't like what I did, but at the end of the day, this is an area of the ship that creativity is up for grabs. And doing whatever you want is up for grabs. You can totally get away with it. The main thing to remember is trying to carry over some of those design cues from room to room if you can. The ANBO Jyutsu ring, though, is kind of going to be its own animal. Because, like, if you look at the room based off the picture that we have, it's not really carrying any of those design cues from other rooms on the ship. It's pretty much its own thing. So really the only thing that we can do is use the design cues from this picture maybe and try to flesh it out a little bit more based off that. Will it look just like an ANBO Jiu-Jitsu ring or room when this is done? I mean, that remains to be seen. But hopefully I'll be able to give you guys a couple of ideas on things that you can do with your own ANBO Jiu-Jitsu ring. Because that's really something I try to do, and I take pride in on my builds, is that I try to do the research, you know, and the best way to do that is to watch the show. Watch every episode, just pay attention, because there could be little tiny bits of detail there that you might miss. Like there was an episode with Barkley on Next Generation where he was having confidence issues, and he decided to ask Deanna Troy out. And he wanted to take her for a walk in the park. And it's like, I didn't realize Enterprise D had a park. I mean, I know they had a very small arboretum, but I didn't know they had a park, and they never show it. But it's just one of those little bits of detail, blink and you'll miss it moments. But just that little bit of information is enough to where now we can add in a park just because they said it in the show. So you start to pay attention to that stuff, and there's other things that you can do too other than watching the show. You can do research online, but I found that watching the show is the best thing to do, because at the end of the day, everybody's human and people are going to miss things. So like really what I've done as a whole to get all the detail that I have out of my ship, I've done a combination of just watching the TV show, taking screenshots, writing things down where I get bits of information that I feel is important, and then also looking online to see if there's anything else that I might be able to find that is maybe talked about in novels or other things that I can kind of tie into the canon of it. This is how you flesh out your ships, you know, because at the end of the day, like even with 7 seasons of the Next Generation, they really only show a fraction of the ship. They don't show that much of the Enterprise D. So there's a lot of room for interpretation there. Out of all the ships in Star Trek, the Constitution class is probably the most fleshed out one. But the only way you're going to get that is if you take all the versions of the Constitution class that have appeared between all the shows and the movies and combine them together. That's what I decided to do on my Constitution class. The cool thing about it is that you can take details from the Constitution class and apply it to other areas of other ships to kind of guide you where you need to be. But then there's other things to remember too, like what's the purpose of the ship? Is it going to make sense to have these areas on the ship? Like with the Enterprise D, for example, it's not going to make sense to have all these recreation areas that the Enterprise D has, maybe on a Constitution class. Constitution class will have some of them, but Enterprise D has over 1,000 people on board. The original Constitution class, I think, had, what, 400? So it's a much bigger ship. You can get away with having much more rooms on it. And again, when you think about the fact that Galaxy class is a ship for families, so it just ties in together when you think about all the recreational areas on the ship. It makes sense, because you need a lot of that for families to be entertained. Most people, or not that many people, are probably going to be into going on a holodeck. It's almost like if you think about, like, in our current times today, there's people that love playing video games, and then there's people that don't, that they want to go out and experience life themselves. There's people that enjoy both, that they enjoy playing video games and going out. I think that it would be exactly the same in the Next Generation area. But the only difference is that now the holodeck is the video game. So there's going to be people that, you know, love it and they want to experience it, and then there's going to be people that, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go out and experience it for real. So that's where all these rooms would come into play, because you have to factor that logic into it, because otherwise, with having a holodeck on board, it makes all of these rooms irrelevant, because the holodeck can make anything. So these rooms have to be, you know, accommodated for people that want to have those real life experiences. And then when you start to think about that stuff, it'll make it a little bit easier for you to start to plan out the rest of your ship, is kind of what I'm trying to get at here. And then that same thinking, you can apply it to any type of build that you're making. When you start to break down what the purpose of the ship was, it'll kind of help guide you in what direction you need to go in. I don't want to say I'm perfect. To be honest with you, this is something that I really truly started to adapt because of the Enterprise D. Before that, you know, I just kind of tried just to add rooms that I was able to find pictures of and merging them together. And then like and I did that with like the original Enterprise. And then when the Disco Era Enterprise came up, I kind of veered away from that just a little bit. And I kind of started thinking in this way, but it wasn't until I got the Enterprise D that I really had to, you know, stop and think about what I was doing and figure out a better plan of attack to build this thing out. Because again, going back to the scale of it and how costly it is to fix mistakes or to change things if you're not happy with them. Like the holodecks, for example, like we haven't built it out yet, but we're going to have a fully fleshed out holodeck based off the Big Goodbye episode. And I actually rebuilt that room twice. Well, I built it a total of 2 times. The first time I made it, I didn't like how it came out, and I didn't like the location that I decided to build it in, so I ended up deleting it and moving it. And this also went into, I had started building out this area before I had my decks established, so I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. I had to move the holodeck down to what is now known as the entertainment deck on our ship. It didn't make any sense to have one holodeck on the crew deck of the ship and the rest of the holodecks on the entertainment deck. So this is another reason, again, you know, why it's so important to plan out what you're doing. Because when you start planning it out, you're a lot less likely to make mistakes. And then on top of that, your build's going to come out that much better. Even though everything that we're doing right now, we're just winging it. Because I'm just using the area that I have available to me. And I'm using the picture to try to inspire me. You can see that we're trying to add in our details with like these blocks here with the gray. That's because there's these lines in the walls here. I'm trying to replicate that. But the problem is that we can't make lines this thin in Minecraft. It's going to be a big block, so it's not going to look as good. This is why I keep deleting them. But we have them going along that back wall there still. And then the flags there. This is why I'm adding in more of the purple flags, because we have those 2 right there. One thing I think we definitely need is a little bit of a border here. You don't want too much of the same color. Sometimes it's important to kind of have a separator color just to add in a little bit more spice to your build and a little bit more detail, or accent lines, or pinstriping, I guess you could say, would be a better description of it. But that pinstriping going along the balcony there on the floor just adds us a little bit more bit of detail than what we had before. And you know, again, you know, less is more. Just that one line. We could have did the whole floor there in the darker gray, but it doesn't necessarily need it. It just needs that one row. Now, if you want to go and you want to make the entire floor that color, I say go for it, but you don't have to, is my point. Yeah, you know, and you see at this point, I'm just following my design cues. I could have made this whole floor that darker gray, but I'm using the carpeting because that's how it was in the first deck. And you know, even though with the first deck we did that because of the sea lanterns below, at this point it's purely a design cue to make sure that both decks match as far as the consistency with your design cues. Because again, even though this is its own separate room to the rest of the ship, we're carrying those on and transitioning those design cues from one area to the next. These are the little things that help tie your room together when you have that consistency going on. And my battery died. I had to swap out my battery real quick. We're doing pretty good on time here. We still have about 5 minutes, but I think when we're done with this today, I think we'll be done with the ANBO ring. I don't think we're going to be coming back to it. Because I remember when I worked on this thing, I didn't spend a lot of time doing it. After I had the ring and I detailed the room, I just kind of moved on. And sometimes you'll get lucky like that. You'll build out a room and decide that it doesn't need anything else, and you can just move on to the next thing. And that's honestly the best thing that can happen. You don't need to circle back and keep making changes because whatever you're doing is not matching up. So I've got to be careful there because I had to put that block back because it was impeding into the corridor. So now we're going to make a slight adjustment to our design here. Just so I can do what we were going to do originally before it went into the corridor. And now I'm just trying something different. I'm adding in just a little bit more gray. Just to try to give it a little bit more color. The only problem now is that that back wall kind of bleeds into the upper deck. That's the only problem with what we just did. But switching to a different color, same idea, but we're just going to change it up a little bit. So you can get the idea of why I use different colors, because I want this area to stick out. I want it to look different. And if we kept it the same color, it's just going to bleed in with the rest of it. See, now that looks, it pops. And even though we're kind of veering away from the canon of it, that actually doesn't look bad. Giving it that little splash of red along the wall there looks pretty good. This is going to bother me up here. Now we have to make this line go all the way around the room, otherwise it's going to make my eye freaking bulge. The OCD's kicking in now. Had to double check, make sure that we're not building into our corridor. We're in good shape. And see, that's all that upper deck needs to be, just a place that people can come up and have just a little bit of a view to watch the match. add in a couple more of those flags. That might look pretty good. You can see there I can't use the darker gray. I have to use that quartz. So that's not going to work for that corner. Block right up there in the corner that I missed. There we go. I mean, all things considered, I think this room came out pretty good. Just one more thing we can add to the checklist of the Enterprise D. But that's it. That's our ANBO Jiu-Jitsu ring. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. If you think I nailed it, or if there was something else better that I could have done, or if you just thought that it looked cool but you want to try something different. Post your pictures in the Discord under community builds. This way I can, myself and everybody else can see your build. We'd love to see it. But I definitely think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button. It helps my channel. It helps it grow. And if you can do me a favor and drop a comment below, I greatly appreciate it. And especially if you have any questions regarding today's episode, drop a comment. Of course, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again. I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend. And I'll catch you in the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section and post your pictures in Discord.